Today, we, as I said, are finishing our journey in Joshua. I know that kind of seems impossible because we were on chapter 7 and we jumped to chapter 23, but I'll show you how we get there in just a little bit. We are going to be in chapter 23, verses 1 through 13, and then 24, verses 14 and 15. That's where I'll be reading from today, if you want to read along with me. After a long time had passed, the Lord had given Israel rest from all the enemies around them. Joshua, by then, was a very old man, summoned all Israel, their elders, leaders, judges, and officials, and said to them, I am very old. You yourselves have seen everything the Lord your God has done to all the nations for your sake. It was the Lord your God who fought for you. Remember how I have allotted as an inheritance for all the tribes, all the land of the nation that remain, the nations I conquered between the Jordan and the Mediterranean, the sea in the west. The Lord your God himself will push them out for your sake. He will drive them out before you, and you will take possession of their land, as the Lord your God promised you. Be very strong. Be careful to obey all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, without turning aside to the right or to the left. Do not associate with these nations that remain among you. Do not invoke the names of their gods or swear by them. You must not serve them or bow down to them. You are to hold fast to the Lord your God, as you have until now. The Lord has driven out before you a great and powerful nations. To this day, no one has been able to withstand you. One of you routs out 1,000 because the Lord your God fights for you, just as he promised. So be careful to love the Lord your God. But if you turn away and ally yourselves with one of the survivors of these nations that remain among you, and if you intermarry with them and associate with them, then you may be sure that the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations before you. Instead, they will become snares and traps for you, whips on your backs and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from this good land, which the Lord your God has given you. And then in 24, 14 through 15. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your ancestors worshiped beyond the Euphrates River in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in the land who you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Now, it's interesting. The past few weeks, well, really the past few months, I have had the opportunity, the unfortunate or fortunate, depending on how you look at it, opportunity of watching a little bit more TV than I typically do. Maybe a lot more TV than I typically do, maybe. And what I have noticed is, more than anything, the commercials. They're downright outrageous. I have been told a million things that is possible for me if I just buy their equipment, their products. In fact, I was so amused by the things that I was seeing that I went and looked up some of the promises that are out there through our commercials, that are out there from just at my fingertips if I just buy a few things. And do you know what it is that are at my fingertips? Well, you know, I could be a better parent. And do you know how I could be a better parent? I could be a better parent simply by buying a certain type of car. Did you know that? Did you know that you too could be a better parent if you bought this certain one type of car? Because then you could track your kid anywhere they went. Better parent, buy a certain car. Do you know what else? I could also, you know what, be a stronger person if I bought a certain watch. And as I was reading that, I went, uh-oh, I already fell prey to that one. So that one, check, mark off the list. I'm already a stronger person because, you know what, I bought that certain watch. I can also be a much happier and not so mean person if I bought and ate a certain candy bar. And so every time I'm grumpy, I just need to go into my cabinet and eat this candy bar. And Joe makes sure that, no, we don't really have those in the pantry, but maybe I should. Because then I can just be a nice person all the time. If I just eat a certain candy bar, then I won't be a grumpy, mean person, right? The promises are just amazing, these things that we see. Oh, did you know that I can live an inspired life if I just drink this certain group of sodas? If you're a writer or an artist or somebody who needs inspiration, well, guess what? It's just at your fingertips. If you buy into this certain soda world, just at your fingertips, because they are an inspired brand. There's a shoe out there that you can buy that will help you burn calories. That's what they promise, just at your fingertips. So if that's what you're searching for, then you know what? Don't be emailing me, by the way. I'm not going to tell you because I don't want you to buy these shoes. So don't ask me. But out there, somebody promises if you buy their shoes, they're going to help you burn some calories just by buying their shoes. You want to know what else you can get? You can get intimate with your husband and wife. You want to know how you get intimate with your husband and wife? By watching football. Yep, that's right. Football has promised us that if we watch football together, we will be more intimate with each other. I have no idea how that's possible, but one of their ads has promised that if we just hang out more watching some football, we'll be more intimate with each other. I bet you that all of you Southerners, all the men are like nudging their wives right now saying, see, told you if we just watch more football together, our lives would be better. I don't know. You tell me. Does it work? All of these things, all of these promises aim at a certain type of life, a certain type of lifestyle. They teach us what's important. I didn't even get into all of the different financial ones, all of the things about investing and all of the ways that we can make money or save money. My favorite ones are on talk radio, which tell you about all of the ways that you can flip things and you can go to a seminar and make all of this money if you just knew this one certain secret trick. Tom told me about a meme this morning that he saw that told you how you can make all of the money you wanted in the world. All you need is a mask and a gun. That's basically what all of these are summed up to, though. They're all aimed at selling us and teaching us what's important, and then telling us how to get it. And I have to admit, as a human being, as a human in this world, I've bought into a lot of that. And it's hard not to, because it's everywhere we go. It's in our cars, it's on our TVs, it's on billboards, it's just swimming all around us. And what we're going to see here today, that for the Israelites, it was a reality too, not in the same way that it is for us, but it was a reality for them too. And so what we're going to look at is how we live a faithful life, a life that God asks us to live, a life that shines the light of God in and amongst a world that is filled with a whole lot of detractors, a whole lot of things that are made that are purposely created to pull us away from the things that are most important in this world. So let's start with looking at where we left off in Joshua. Where we left off was with Achan in chapter 7, Achan and Achan's sin. So we have seen the Israelites. Now we have to remember first and foremost what God's plan was for the people of Israel. The people of Israel became a people through Abraham. God made a promise to Abraham that he would make Abraham's descendants into a nation of people more numerous than the stars in the sky and all the grains of sand. Not only would he make Abraham's people into a nation, he would bring them to a land that he would give to them, a land that was prosperous, a land that was flowing with milk and honey, and he would give them that land. And finally, after generation, year after year, this has come to pass. This is finally happening. And that's where we picked up at the beginning of Joshua. They were about ready to enter this land, and they crossed the Jordan River, which was an amazing thing that God allowed them to do, that God made happen for them. And they entered into this land, and there was a lot to do. And they had to be strong and courageous in order to do this because it wasn't going to be easy. But the reason why God wanted to have this nation of people, the reason why he created a people out of Abraham's descendants in the first place, was so that there would be a people who shined the light of God in the darkness of the entire world. Because before this point, God had just tried to work through individuals, but it wasn't working. So God decided to make a nation of people, a group of people who would be set apart, who would be different than the rest. And this different nature of this people would show the rest of the world that there was one true God. Because for all of time, the entire of humanity had been worshiping multiple gods, thinking that it took multiple gods, worshiping them, making them happy, appeasing them, in order to have a successful life, successful harvest, successful fertility, you name it, you had to worship all of these different gods. There were numerous lists of gods that you had to make happy. What God wanted to show the entire civilization of humanity, not just the Israelites, but all of humanity, was that there is one God and one God only. And the way that God chose to do that was through this set apart nation of Israelites that were going to be in this land. And the way that they came to this land was all of this trial and error, right? And so they finally get here and they were going to be set apart, and it wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't going to be easy on purpose, because they had to understand the importance of their role. They had to understand the importance of their relationship with God, and they had to understand the importance of their set-apart nature. And so we saw, as they were going to war, and we saw what war meant, and we saw what sin meant through Achan. We saw how much sin can hurt not only the person, the sinner itself, but all of the people surrounding the sinner. And that's where we left off last week, with Achan's sin and how much it destroyed not only Achan and Achan's family, but the entire nation of Israel. And it took rooting out that sin for the rest of the nation to be able to go forward. And after that, they are successful in their battles again. After that sin is fixed, they go and they take on more kings and they have more success. They're not perfect. What you see in the rest of the chapters in between 7 and 23 is that they have more mistakes, but then they fix them, just like regular humans in their relationship with God. They're not perfect. And then around chapter 12, the fighting basically is over. But what has happened, because they've made mistakes, is that they haven't rooted out all of those inhabitants of the land. And so they are left mixed, both Israelites and the native people of the land, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Jebusites, all of those people. There's not a lot of them, but there's still enough of them to make it so that it's hard to stay true to God. And so you have all of these people all through chapter 12, that all the battling's done. And then the rest of it is God, through Joshua, allotting different pieces of land to the 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe gets a different plot of land. There's also cities of refuge put together. There's lands for the Levites, the priests, who are in charge of making sure that everybody stays centered. And this is what you see through the rest of Joshua. I encourage you to dig in and to read it. But it's a lot of the same lessons that we've already looked at. The same lessons of faithfulness, the same lessons of sin and the power of sin and the nature of sin, and then the nature of redemption that we saw through Rahab, and the wideness of God's mercy that we saw through Rahab. But what we see left here in chapter 23 and 24 is Joshua, who's 110 years old, getting towards the end of his time with the Israelites, telling them as he finishes his time what they're going to need to do in order to survive and thrive in this land, reminding them of who they are and reminding them of what they're going to need to do continuing on. And what Joshua says to them is that you are going to need to be very strong. Once again, the same words that started us out at the beginning of Joshua are here at the end. We had to be strong in the beginning, and we're going to have to continue to be strong at the end. You're going to have to be strong, and you're going to have to be careful to obey all that's written in the book. And that's even more so true now, because think about this group of people. These people, all they've ever known is wandering in the desert. They've only known their people. They're not the generation that was living amongst the Egyptians in Egypt. That was their parents and the generations before them. God did not let that group of people come into this land. They died off. And so this group of people has only ever known each other. They haven't lived amongst people who worshiped other gods. They haven't had to deal with that temptation. They haven't had to deal with the trials of looking at the way other people live and having to decide to continue to live the way that God tells you to live. And not look at the way somebody else lives and goes, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if that would work for me. And for the first time ever, these groups of people are being confronted with the ways that other people live, being tempted by the ways that other people live. Imagine what that's like. I can imagine it's like going to middle school for the first time. Middle school, from elementary school to middle school. Elementary school is all neat and kind of simple and nothing's too big or crazy there. But then for some reason, there's this huge jump and everything goes wild and crazy when you get into middle school and you're introduced to this whole new world of life. And there's all different ways of doing things that you didn't know existed just 1 year before. And the temptation and the different ways of living and the different ways of thinking and the music. Oh my goodness, the music, right? And what Joshua is begging his people to do is to remember who they are and whose they are. And that they're going to have to remember this every moment of every day of their lives so that they can continue to be the people they were created to be. They were created to be a people set apart, a people created in and for God's love so that the whole world can see who this God of love is, so that they can be attracted to this God of love, so they can be brought to this God of love. But the reality is that it's not easy to follow the pattern of God's life. If you look at our lives as Christians, you can see how hard that is. If you look at our lives here in this world, if you look at my life as a pastor, you can see that it's not easy because in our world, we have this other idol, this other God that so many of us choose at the same time as we choose a life of Christianity. I call it the God of the American dream. And we worship at it. And there's little mini gods that fill up this God of the American dream. There's the mini God of financial security, and there's the mini God of the white picket fence and the house and the 4.5 kids, or is it 2.5 kids and 5 dogs? I don't know. Whatever it is for you, you make up whatever that little house feels like. And then you have the little mini God of, what kind of cars fit in that. And then you have the mini gods in there of what clothes that should look like. And everybody's version looks a little different, right? What house looks like and what the cars look like and what the clothing looks like and what education looks like in that dream, right? What does education look like? What are you striving for? What does your kids' lives look like? What do your grandkids' lives look like? How much money is enough money to have in a retirement account? What is a retirement account? But we're all chasing a dream in life. Because as Americans in this society, in this world, what we've been told is most important is that we have to figure out who we are. We have to figure out what we're supposed to do with our lives. And we have to figure out how to make money doing it and how to take care of a family all in the same time. And that those are the most important things. And then we have to add little accoutrement around it. The pretty things. The things that give us status and popularity. And we chase that in life instead of chasing God and allowing God to choose for us what our next step is, what our life should look at. I'm just as guilty as the next person. If you looked at my life and the things that I've done, you would say that I worship at the feet of the American dream more than I worship at the feet of God, because for most of my life I have. And I'm trying my hardest to learn what it looks like to switch that focus. But it's so hard when everything around you is telling you what a good life is and how to get that good life. And that's exactly what's happening with the Israelites, because they're around people who have a good life and what they call a good life. And they know how to get this good life by appeasing the gods. And every commercial I turn on TV tells me how to get a better life than the one I have. A happier life, a more fulfilled life. I have to go on this vacation at this place. And if I go on this vacation, I'm going to be more relaxed or more happy. And if I buy these shoes, I'm going to be more fit and more happy. And if I have this watch, I'm going to be more fit and more happy. And if I do these things, my life is going to be exponentially better. It's a daily barrage of telling us one more thing that we need to do in order to have a fulfilled life. But in reality, if we look at what God's asked of the Israelites and what Jesus modeled for us, that's not the life that we're supposed to live as Christians. And what Joshua says here to the Israelites is so true. In 24:14, he says, "Now fear the Lord," and we're supposed to fear the Lord because sin is real and there are repercussions for the sin, and we've seen that. And we're supposed to fear the Lord and serve the Lord with all faithfulness. And when we serve the Lord takes care of the rest. The Lord makes our path known. We're supposed to have shelter and clothing and food and even happiness. Like those things God wants for us because God is good. But we're supposed to get those things in pursuit of God, not in pursuit of happiness, not in pursuit of the American dream. So fear the Lord and serve Him with all faithfulness. Throw away your gods, the ones that your ancestors worshipped. And this is the thing that hits right at the quick. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. If serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, and I have to admit, there are times when serving the Lord seems undesirable. There are times when doing anything seems undesirable, especially one more thing. It seems undesirable to pick up my Bible and we'd rather watch some TV to check out or play a game on our phone to check out. It seems undesirable to go to the food bank and work this week because I'm just too tired. It seems undesirable to go to a jail and make relationships with people in jail because they got there for some reason and I have other things to do. I don't have time for that. It seems undesirable to give money to charitable organizations because you know what? I have to pay rent this month. It seems undesirable to make church a regular thing because, church. Those people are all hypocrites. It seems undesirable to make time in my everyday life to read the Bible because Scripture is all nonsense. It's hard. It seems undesirable to go tutor kids at a school because I hated school. Why would I go back there again? And I don't have time for that. I have kids. I have school. I don't have time in my life for anything else. It seems undesirable to walk a life that looks like Jesus's. That doesn't seem fun. The American dream looks fun. This other path, if we're honest with ourselves, sometimes seems undesirable. But the truth about the path that Jesus is on, that Jesus asks us to walk, is that it's filled with beauty, that it's filled with good, that it's filled with blessing. Not only for the people that we are asked to put ourselves on the line for, but for ourselves. And that when we walk that path, we are blessed abundantly. We may not get the things that are available to us on the American dream, but we also don't get the debt that's available to us on the American dream. We may not get all of the glory that is available to us on the American dream, but we get lives. We get to share Jesus. We get to love. We get to show mercy. And we get to shine the light and be different. You see, the reason why God was so afraid of people intermingling and marrying with those in Israel and the Canaanites was that he knew that they couldn't shine that way. It'd be so hard to shine when they were doing things like other people did. The only way for us to shine is to be different. For somebody to say, there's something about her. I don't know what it is, but there's something about her. There's something about him that's just different. I want whatever it is that he has. I can't put my finger on it, but I want what he has. And there's no way for us to be different like that if we're chasing the same thing everybody else is chasing. There's no way for our kids to find the peace that we say that we desperately want for them, the happiness that we desperately want for them, if they're chasing the same thing everybody else is chasing. There's always going to be somebody that's better. There's always going to be somebody that's richer. There's always going to be somebody that has more, that is more than them. But when they follow Jesus, there's always more riches and more beauty and more love. And they will always shine brightly. So the choice for us today, the choice that is before us, is that we get to choose for ourselves this day whom we will serve. Will we serve the God of this American life? Or will we serve the God that created us and who knows best what we need? The way that we serve our God is by surrendering everything, every wish, every hope, every dream that we have for ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, to God. And seek God first in all things. Saying it's okay if I don't get what I thought I wanted, as long as I get you. So the question before us today, my friends, is, Who are you going to serve?